far as long neglected game franchises go, Onimusha is definitely pretty high up on that list. The last game in the series, Onimusha Dawn of Dreams, came out in 2006. So, yeah, it's been a hot minute since they did anything with it. At least, as far as my research on Wikipedia could dig up. Apparently there was a game in 2012 called Onimusha Soul, but it doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I can't verify that it actually exists. I've never played an Onimusha game before, but I've definitely heard the praise. Some YouTubers like Alpha Omega Sin have voiced pretty heavy criticism at Capcom for constantly re-releasing the Devil May Cry games, but not touching Onimusha. Well, in the year 2019, Capcom did just that. I don't know why I'm talking about it like it was super far in the past, but that is not the point. At the time of writing the script, Capcom just re-released the first game, Onimusha Warlords, for the PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch, for a whopping $20. While I usually would have jumped on the opportunity to buy any game ever on Switch, they sadly released it digital only for the system, and right now, I have a whopping 2 gigs of total storage from my Switch left over. It could be worse though. I love having physical copies of games, so I just decided to jump on the PS4 version. Plus, the game was originally released on the PS2, so I guess it's just a tradition to play it on a PlayStation console. Which, by the way, the dude at GameStop didn't even flinch when I walked in. I was in and out within 2 or 3 minutes, like we fucking rehearsed that shit. I don't know, it was just kinda funny to me that it went so smoothly. Usually my trips to GameStop aren't always as good. Granted, I don't usually buy new games at GameStop, so that obviously contributes to it. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, Onimusha. I'm James, and this time on That Game Review Show, I will be taking a look at the cult classic, Onimusha Warlords. 2001, 18 years ago. Onimusha came out to fairly critical acclaim, averaging scores around 85. Not really a score to scoff at, especially considering how early in the PS2's life it came out. In fact, it originally started development on the PS1. I'll discuss more about the game's development during the gameplay section, because it is kind of interesting. The story of Onimusha Warlords is pretty concise, honestly. There's not a lot of bullshit here to sift through. You play as Samanosuke, which is spelled like this. And if I am mispronouncing anything, and you're upset by it, fuck yourself. Anyways, demons invade this Japanese castle and their princess, Yuki, is taken by the demons to use during a ceremony involving using her head as a grail. Kinda gross. Actually no, that's really gross. But kinda awesome. Samanosuke gets a letter from the princess and comes back to save her, which he does within the first couple minutes. That seems pretty easy. Nope, the big demon comes and kills Samanosuke, taking Princess Yuki, and vanishes. As Samanosuke dies, he has a vision of these weird ghost things, which are called Oni, or ogres, like Shrek. And they give him the Oni Gauntlet, which allows him to absorb the souls of the demons and gives him the strength to fight back. That's really it, honestly. Samanosuke makes his way through the castle, and along his way, he finds this young, bald boy, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me. He runs into his lady ninja friend Kaede a few times, and this really strange small man. I am the worst with these names, so just play it yourself if you're concerned about them. In the castle, there are books littered around giving some details to the world at large, mostly regarding the plans of the demons. After you make your way through everything, the final area in the demon world is revealed. So you make your way there where Yuki and Bald Boy are waiting, tied up with demonic goo. The Demon King is also waiting, the giant snaky monster that he is. I feel like if he popped up a bit throughout the game, him being here would have left a bigger impact, but his design does make up for it pretty well. Samanosuke defeats the Demon King with his Onimusha form, at least that's what I believe it's called based off of the wikia for it. Sadly, you don't get to play this part, so that really pulls the wind out of your sails. The Demon King dies and Samanosuke is greeted by this guy, who again, I don't remember his name. He is a pawn of the demons and was going to be drinking Yuki's blood to gain power. Then the game just ends. That's it. Fades to black, then roll credits. It does give a little slideshow talking about the characters and what they did after the events of the game, leaving only Samanosuke's fate vague since he was left in the demon world. Apparently in Onimusha 3, since 2 doesn't continue Samanosuke's story, They retcon some of the details here, like Kaede wandering the earth, never finding him. But he pops up in 3, so clearly that wasn't right. It is interesting that they changed details like this though, since they were originally planning on the series to be a trilogy from the beginning. So I don't think it made too much sense to not plan everything out, even when they anticipated at least 2 more games. Let's talk about the presentation. I'm sure you've noticed during the gameplay that this game looks a bit rough, even for it being a remaster. Not saying the remaster has no advantages, them being a super solid frame rate and the 16:9 resolution. I'm sure the textures have been updated, but as I haven't spent any time with the original, I really can't say it for certain. Part of the issue with doing a fast remaster with these old games is if they're not willing to put in the time or the money to spruce the game up, then they just don't hold up nearly as well. That's not exclusive to Onimusha, of course, as I've said before that the Devil May Cry games look rough, even on the PS4 remasters. The character models look decent, honestly, most of them with pretty good designs.
Dripping blood and what's this? Oh, a liver. What's that smell? Who's there? A human? How disappointing.
Face me, demon!
Who do you think you are talking to? I haven't seen one as foolish as you since that, Nobunaga.
Nobunaga?
The world design is a bit bleh. It's not to say the world itself is boring, but if you look closely, or not closely at all considering the resolution, each scene is pre-rendered, with Samanosuke walking on top of it like the old Resident Evil games. I mean, the backgrounds do look okay, but they can't compare to 3D environments. The dialogue is a bit on the rough side. Actually, it's a lot like the old Bruce Lee movies, where the dialogue is pretty stilted and the lip syncing is way off. Like this cutscene before the Demon King.
Even if I die, I will destroy you!
Also, in cutscenes where the characters are interacting with, well, anything, their character models get incredibly jittery. This is very, very noticeable, especially in scenes that are meant to be important due to the camera being so close up. The gameplay is a bit dated. Very dated, honestly. The game takes place in the world with a fixed camera angles that change every few feet. In Devil May Cry, this wasn't so bad, seeing as that game benefited from having 3D environments, so the camera can move and pan as much as they needed it to. Having the pre-rendered scenes causes another big issue as well, being sometimes doors and pathways are pretty hard to see. Another issue, which was mostly just me, is that every time the scene shifted, I would always stop and readjust because I wasn't comfortable with the game going in the same direction. It's really hard to describe. The original game used tank controls, so that would have helped with going in the correct direction, but seeing as tank controls are really stupid, and I'm glad they're gone, I am okay with the concession. I really don't mean to keep harping on about the backgrounds, they just caused a lot of issues with me due to the limitations they impose. Onimusha is a hack and slash game, very heavily inspired by Resident Evil, and here is when we talk about the game's development a little bit. The game was originally going to be a Resident Evil spin-off, taking place in feudal Japan where a company causes a virus outbreak which helped the demons rise. This wasn't a Devil May Cry situation, where it was originally Resident Evil 3 or 4, but as I said, a spin-off. That's pretty obvious to see when playing the game, picking up strange keys, solving arbitrary puzzles, the herbs used to heal yourself, the main difference being the whole melee combat part of it. You start off the game with just a basic katana, which does fuck all for damage. Once you die and get the Oni Gauntlet, you're able to collect souls from enemies by holding the circle button, which you then use to upgrade the later weapons you get. There really aren't any combos in this game, so you're going to be watching the same attack animations over and over again. Speaking of, there are 3 weapons you will be using throughout your adventure. I please beg your forgiveness if I don't attempt to pronounce your names. Instead, I'll be using some pretty apt nicknames for them. The first weapon you get is the Lightning Katana, which, as the name would suggest, is a fairly fast weapon with lightning powers in it. If you press triangle, you can do a multi-strike attack, ending with a column of lightning. The next is the Fire Broadsword. Heavy and slow attacks, but the damage output is huge. The magic attack for it is a Fire Blast that can actually shoot through your enemies, letting you rack up some serious damage on a group of foes if you aim it just right. The third and final elemental weapon you receive is the Wind Staff, which is the fastest in terms of attacks, but is the worst with actual damage output. It's nice for trying to brute force your way through some enemies, since you can attack faster than the larger ones. The magic attack is a huge cyclone that attacks from all directions. Each weapon comes with a strange magic orb, which I believe is the magic, but I cannot confirm that. The main use for them was to unlock the magic doors that are sealed with a special type of force. With the Demon Souls, you can enhance your weapons. Enhancing your weapons give them a makeover and stronger damage, whereas enhancing orbs allow you to break through stronger locked doors. Like I said, I think the orbs also affect magic, but I was not paying enough attention until the end of the game to see my spells getting stronger. Seeing as you need to equip different weapons for the locked doors, and that each weapon has its own magic bar, you will be playing with each weapon pretty frequently, though my personal favorite was always the Fire Greatsword. About halfway through the game, there is something you can do, completely optionally, and that is the Dark Realm. It's a 20 level gauntlet where you fight against wave after wave of enemies back to back. Not quite Bloody Palace mode, but close enough. Apparently you're not supposed to be able to beat it until closer to the end of the game, but I kinda lucked and brute forced my way through it as soon as I got the option. There are 2 spots that can let you access the Dark Realm through this weird Mothman guy. This did lead me to thinking there were 2 different Dark Realms to go through, but I looked into it, and before I played again, there's only one, thankfully. Beating the Dark Realm got me the Ocarina. This Ocarina allows you to get to the last weapon, which I again will not attempt to pronounce. This is the strongest weapon in the game, taking out many demons in just 1 or 2 hits. It also has an infinite power attack, which is really nice. Too bad you can only really use it during the final boss. Throughout the game, you will come across some weird pickups named Fluorite, which do nothing. But if you collect all 20, you unlock Hard Mode, which lets you play through the entire game with the super weapon. I think I collected 15 or 16, so clearly I didn't unlock it. With the game said and done, I'm really glad I was able to play this when I did, and I'm really glad it was only $20. If Capcom had tried to sell it for $60, I probably would have been concerned, but if in the future they did a bundle with all 4 PS2 Onimusha games and released it for $60, I would jump on that deal. If you enjoy Devil May Cry, you would probably enjoy this game. And it's pretty short, running at about 4 or 5 hours, so it's not that huge of a time sink either. Hold on, what's this? I unlocked a costume for Samanosuke. Let's check it out. Alright, it's oh, no. Oh god, it just gets worse. I shudder to think if there are any more costumes, and I really don't want to know. Honestly, this is probably the most horrifying thing I have seen in a long time. Thank you so much for watching TGRS. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. We upload every Wednesday. I haven't really talked to Terrell and Crab about this, but I would have really loved to get us to at least 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That sounds really awesome, honestly. Anyways, next week Terrell will be your host, so come join us back here then.